Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles, and I have a fairly remarkable battle for you today. And it's remarkable for a whole bunch of reasons, although some of those won't become apparent until the end of the battle. But one of the things that makes this battle quite remarkable should be apparent right from the start. Dhizi here has elected to play World of Tanks in hard mode. Yes, he's playing in British light tanks. In particular, he's playing in the Setter. Now, I don't want to bang on throughout the entire course of this video about how mind-bogglingly shit these British light tanks are. That should be a matter of public record by now. They've been around long enough by now that everybody should be entirely aware of just how terrible these things are, and how if you're going to play these things, you're basically putting yourself at a disadvantage before you've even entered the battle. They do not stand out in any way, shape or form. There is nothing that they do better than anybody else in just about any set of circumstances that you could possibly imagine. No matter how well you're doing in a British light tank, you will always be able to do better in a light tank of the same tier belonging to a different nation. In fact, in many cases, you'd be able to do better in a light tank of a lower tier belonging to any other nation. Okay? Okay. The one thing that these tanks don't completely suck at is passive spotting. Sitting in a bush, hoping you don't get noticed and hoping that your teammates are capable of shooting at the targets that you're lighting up. In this respect, the Setter is at least not the worst tier 7 light tank. It's merely as bad as the Chinese and not quite as bad as the Russians, who have 10 meters less view range. But it is still pretty bad even at this. Oh, actually, slight amendment to my last. I said that the Setter was as bad as the Chinese. That's not strictly 100% true. The Type 62 obviously gets best in tier light tank view range at tier 7 because it's a premium. But the Setter does have the same shitty view range as the WZ-131, which can have shitty view range because it's not a premium, so nobody really cares whether anybody plays it or not. I know that I said right at the start of this video that I wasn't going to spend the entire video banging on about how bad these British light tanks were, and I've already broken that promise. Don't worry, I'll get it out of my system soon. The thing that winds me up though, it's not so much the fact that the tanks are pretty bad. I mean, there are pretty bad tanks scattered throughout the tech trees all over World of Tanks. It's not even the fact that the entire line is bad, without exception. Unless, of course, you know, you spend money and buy the tier 8 premium. Now, the thing that winds me up about these British light tanks is the fact that Wargaming just continue to insist that they're fantastic and we're all just wrong. It's the worst case of Emperor's New Clothes I think I've ever seen. Anyway, I'm glad I've gotten that all out of my system now. Feels good. Let's concentrate on the actual battle. Suffice to say that Dhizi is basically playing in one of the worst tanks he could have picked under these circumstances. Having said that, you might be wondering what the hell are those two enemy tanks down there so frightened of? I mean, Dhizi's pecking away at them with his pea shooter. They keep popping out and looking right at him. They obviously want to shoot at him, but they keep getting hit by the 3 tank destroyers parked up here, the Sture Mill, Canadian Jagdpanzer 105 and the Challenger. Friendly artillery are also doing their level best to try to keep them pinned down over there and prevent them from breaking out, because, well, if they don't, friendly artillery are likely to be next on their shit list. Now, contrary to what Wargaming would have you believe, it's not actually Dhizi's spotting that's keeping those guys lit up. It's the VK3002D. And the VK is doing a very good job, but he's proximity detecting those enemy tanks on that corner down to the south. And if he's proximity detecting them, they're proximity detecting him. And that's rendering him extremely vulnerable to all kinds of enemy fire, including enemy artillery fire. Dhizi, I get the feeling he's not confident that the VK is going to be able to stay alive for too much longer, and so he's relocating to a position where he will actually be able to put his limited view range to use and spot any further enemy tanks coming around from the south in the event that the VK dies. And his timing is just about perfect, because there's a T-28 just turned up and the VK is very wisely deciding, fuck that shit, I'm out. I mean, wouldn't you? But he's not disengaging entirely. He's still doing his best to try to keep that T-28 spotted, perhaps not realising that Dhizi is up here. Dhizi taking the opportunity to do some damage at least. to an enemy tank that he has a line of fire on, and then decides, you know what, that VK needs a little bit more direct assistance. Artillery also firing at the T-28, not doing a whole lot more than just stunning the crew, and then, oh no, here comes a Chimera. 2 Tier 8 enemy tanks, both on pretty much full health. The VK doing his level best to do as much damage as he can, and attempting to get out intact, but well, no. Although the VK did manage to set the Chimera on fire before he died, and the Chimera is a little bit slow with that fire extinguisher. And Dhizi's doing a great job of running rings around this Tier 8 medium premium. Artillery, of course, always anxious to help out, but hey, no real harm done. And now the T-28 is chasing after him. And that's a phrase you probably thought you'd never hear repeated in connection with a light tank. The T-28 is chasing after him. Yes, the T-28 is playing chasey chasey, catchy catchy, killy killy with a light tank, even a light tank as bad as this one. Do you think that guy realises he's in a T-28? Well, whatever. Observe the, and I quote Wargaming here, battleship gun of the setter in action. Dhizi wisely deciding to keep the T-28 immobilised while he needle pricks him to death over and over and over, with a little bit of help from the rest of his team, who are mostly dead. Well, that's nice. Well, at least there don't appear to be any enemies remaining down here on the southern end of the map, that we know of. But with a limited amount of firepower remaining available to them, it would be wise for the team to all concentrate it in one place. And right now, that looks like the enemy SU-100M1 over there. Now, what you're about to see happen might actually fool you into believing that the setter really does have fantastic concealment, and to be fair, the setter's concealment isn't bad. But the fact that the SU-100M1 is looking in this direction, but not returning fire because he can't actually see anything to shoot at, has as much to do with his extremely shitty 350 meter view range as any particular stealthiness on behalf of Dhizi's tank. And that whole thing does in fact work both ways, because Dhizi is unable to see the SU-100M1 unless he's moving or firing as well. Now, obviously there are other factors involved here. While your camo and view ratings are fixed numbers, crew skills do also play a huge part, and we've got no real way of knowing what the various different crew skills on those two machines were, but the SU-100M1 is dead, and Dhizi is now back once again, using his less than spectacular view range to attempt to spot any enemy vehicles from the concealment of this bush in the middle of the map. So it's quite lucky really that something as big and obvious as a captured King Tiger blunders right across the middle of the open at a range of less than 200 meters, otherwise Dhizi might not have seen him. Now, it's very interesting that Dhizi got spotted there, because he took a great care to ensure that when he fired at that captured King Tiger, he pulled right back so that he wouldn't be seen through the bush. The King Tiger definitely did not see him. Something else is up there, something that Dhizi, unsurprisingly, didn't see. The question is, what is it? Well, we're not going to have to stick around too long to find out. It was, in fact, that guy, the S1. Not this guy, a completely stock Tiger. And that was a mercy killing. The Tiger is probably just grateful that it's all over. The stock Tiger was not a pleasant experience to play 7 years ago, the first time I did it, and I'll guarantee you that the power creep between then and now has not made the experience any better. So the enemy have traded a mostly dead stock Tiger for a Stuart and Mill, and if you ask me, they definitely got the better part of the trade. However, the enemy S1, spotted repeatedly, is still sitting in the same spot, so it was really only a matter of time before artillery finished him off. And with that blind shot kill from the artillery, the scores are even, with only 5 tanks remaining on each team. Dhizi, from his new observation spot, stops to give some encouragement to his team in chat, because he's basically just an all-round good egg and snappy dresser. Although just how much of a good egg he is, we won't fully comprehend until the end of this battle. Enemy Challenger spotted. No sign of the AT-7 or the Lerva, and Dhizi's not going to do any damage to a Challenger from over here, although it doesn't look like the rest of the team actually need any help. And oh bugger, okay, there is the AT-7. And of course, because Dhizi's camera rating on the move isn't nearly as good as Wargaming would like you to believe, he, of course, got spotted. So, spotted. And spotted on the way back as well, so the AT-7 knows he's coming, but well, what the hell else is he supposed to do? He's in a light tank with a pop gun. He has to keep his artillery alive. I mean, you saw how long it took him to finish off the T-28. If they're going to finish off the AT-7 in particular, and the remaining enemy tanks in general, and one of them's a Lerva, it's probably not going to be down to any direct firepower from Dhizi here. And I'll tell you one thing, it is extremely fortunate that Wargaming recently disabled friendly fire damage from artillery, because if they hadn't, while friendly artillery are barely doing any damage to the AT-7, that's all from the Kanonen Jagdpanzer 105 who rushed over to help out. But if not for that recent change to the game mechanics, friendly artillery would definitely have finished Dhizi off there, with plenty of help from the AT-7 and the enemy artillery as well. Dhizi, not confident to leave his fate in the hands of the rest of his team for a second longer, gets an extremely lucky kill, with a shot fired onto the move into the side armour of the AT-7 as he was angling towards him. And of course keeps moving, because the AT-7 will still have been broadcasting its location to enemy artillery for a few seconds. Now, the extremely good news as far as Dhizi is concerned is that he doesn't have to worry about the enemy Lerva, who has been spotted up to the northeast. Of course, that was incredibly bad news for the Challenger, who probably wasn't expecting to see him, and died as a result. But the Lerva is now somebody else's problem, and after coming to his assistance against the AT-7, the Kanonen Jagdpanzer is heading back to deal with it. Dhizi sees the GW... Oh, and the GW Panther sees him! Damn, that was close. Of course, this battleship gun that Dhizi has takes 3 shots to kill an artillery, or it would have if friendly artillery hadn't finished him off. And Dhizi, once again, narrowly survives destruction at the hands of enemy artillery, this time in the shape of the M12, who was firing from over there, unless Dhizi is an extremely poor judge of character. Now, while the Kanonen Jagdpanzer is busy claiming his 5th kill on the enemy Lerva, do you remember earlier I mentioned what an incredibly good egg and snappy dresser Dhizi was? I said you wouldn't understand just exactly how much of a good egg he was until the end of the battle. Well, here it comes. Right now there are only 2 enemy tanks left, though the Kanonen Jagdpanzer is about to get kill number 5 on the Lerva any second now, and there it is. That means, with 1 enemy machine remaining, one of Dhizi's teammates is in a position to get a top gun. The Kanonen Jagdpanzer isn't asking for a top gun, but Dhizi's right now looking at the number of kills next to that guy's name, and he's worked it out for himself. The thing is, Dhizi is also in a position to get himself a Faden's medal, and a Faden's medal is by far a more rare achievement than a Top Gun. What's a Faden's medal? You get a Faden's medal when you kill the last tank on the enemy team, with the last round of ammunition remaining in your tank. Now he's just used 2 high explosive on the M12. There goes 1 armour piercing, 1 more keeping him immobilised. Here comes the Kanonen Jagdpanzer 105. 2 shots left. He can just fire 1 into the rocks and claim the kill and the Faden's medal with the last shot remaining, but instead he says in chat, take it, it's yours. Here comes the Kanonen Jagdpanzer 105, gratefully claiming his Top Gun, or he would, if artillery hadn't taken it at the last second. You know, you try to be a good guy. And your teammates just fight you every step of the way. I'm sure the Kanonen Jagdpanzer 105 driver was at least appreciative of the fact that Dhizi made the gesture. But I'm also sure he wasn't aware that Dhizi voluntarily gave up the chance of getting a Faden's medal of his own in order to give him the chance of getting his Top Gun. Not that it really mattered either way. All of their hopes and dreams were shattered by friendly artillery, but hey, you know, at least he tried. And let's not be too critical of the M12 that took the final kill. I mean, both he and the GW Panther played very well and were a credit to the team. In fact, all of the surviving tanks did an exceptional job, which is quite surprising considering one of them was in a setter. And while Dhizi didn't do the most damage, thanks to the nearly 3,400 spotting damage that Dhizi was also able to accumulate, he's finished comfortably top of the team on experience earned. Although how the hell he managed to accumulate 3,400 spotting damage in this thing is anybody's guess. For reasons that we've already gone into, I feel, in sufficient detail. Nevertheless, Well done to the surviving members of the team in general, and Dhizi in particular, because, unlike the rest of his team, he was in a setter, and therefore he was playing this battle in hard mode. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I have no doubt that it's given you all something to talk about in the comments, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.